Hey YouTube, it's the Busy Diva. Before I forget, I'm going to ask that you please like, share, and subscribe to my channel and see what's up next. So today we're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about a story I heard this morning on the news about a teenager from the Pasadena, Texas ISD. The girl fainted at school, and instead of being taken to the doctor and assessed as to whether this might have been a serious medical emergency, she was instead taken to the nurse's office and supposedly tested and assumed that she was on drugs. The young lady said that she was given what was called a pen test, and I looked this up to try to see exactly what that was, and it seemed to be some type of drug test that actually tests for drugs on a surface. So I'm not sure how that was administered to her. And she said she was given a balance test, which I am to assume means that she had to display whether she could keep her balance properly. But if you've just fainted, that might not be easy to do. Nevertheless, they did not find any particular substance according to the test that they administered to her. But they suspended her anyway for 3 days for being under the influence of an unknown substance. She was still not taken to the doctor. She says that day when she was made to leave the school, her mother took her to the doctor where she was given a drug test. And the drug test that was that she displayed on the news report showed negative for various illegal drugs and various controlled substances that were listed on the test. It showed negative. And so her mother took the drug test. In addition to that, it was reported that she had passed out at her home about 1.5 years ago, and she was taken to the doctor and they couldn't quite figure out what was wrong with her. So her mother came with that information and the drug test that was given to her the same day as she left school. The school claimed it wasn't enough and said that she could appeal the suspension. Now that sounds very problematic to me. First off, someone passes out. Why is it that we are going to readily assume that, especially a kid? She's a high school kid. She's a child. She apparently had no medical information on file as that she would be passing out. So then you didn't know what she passed out from. It could have been a very serious medical emergency, and it still could be, because there are sicknesses that people go to the hospital all the time, and their diagnosis, could be unsure, or later on could be diagnosed as something, serious that might have been missed the first time. So they don't know what was wrong with that girl. And to just readily assume that she was on drugs, to me, that's very despicable. And the news reports cite the Pasadena ISD officials saying that the safety of all of their students is their primary concern. Well, you know what? If the safety of your students, all of your students, was your primary concern, it doesn't seem like her safety was your primary concern. She fainted. So even if she was under the influence of something, how is it that she compromised other students' safety? Okay, she was out. Okay, but what about her safety? What about the fact that she could have been seriously ill? And instead of you taking her to the doctor and notifying her mother, that her parents or mother, that she was going to the doctor, you just decided to somehow wait until she wake her up and then give her a drug test and assume she's on drugs. So on the assumption that all kids are doing drugs, and she claimed that she does not do drugs. The test that a licensed physician that she reportedly went to said she was not on drugs when she even took this test the same day. That's very problematic to me, and just very wrong. I mean, I just have a feeling that if this was a student from a different district that was not a student of color, this would not have gone down this way. And, what would they say if there was something truly, really, really found to be seriously wrong with this girl, and you sat there and want to make a judgment call? Is this, I don't know, this is just really bothers me. I mean, and to disrespect her mother by saying, oh, that's not enough. So what, you're calling her mother a liar? You're saying that she made up the medical reports, and she made up her medical history. She made up this drug test, I mean, why wasn't that enough to appeal the suspension? I don't get that, and that's why we as parents, need to really be involved with what's going on in our schools and what's going on, with the people who run the schools and handle our children. And, when you let things slide, you don't know what's going to be worse, that, comes across. So anyway, I'd like to know what opinions are out there about this. Maybe I'm looking at this all wrong. I was told by someone that, they have every right to drug test a student. I know that schools can test students. They can give them pregnancy tests. They can, I'm sure they can give drug tests, because you can buy drug tests over the counter, But this student, she was not apparently acting erratically. According to this report, she passed out. I mean, I'm just not understanding how is it you could readily assume that just because someone passes out, they're on drugs. I've seen someone pass out before, and it was nowhere near drugs. I almost passed out one time. It was not drugs. So, to just assume this child was on drugs. I mean, she's a child. She's in their care. They claim the student's safety is their primary concern. Why wasn't her safety their primary concern? I would think that if she passed out, her safety would have been to get her to a hospital, to let a doctor, take a good look at her, make sure that nothing, was wrong with her, nothing that was seriously wrong with her. What if she died there? What if she never woke up? What then? What would they have to say for themselves? Oh, we were given a drug test. Oh, she was on drugs. She died from overdose. And for the test to be, they couldn't identify anything. So you're going to still say she was on drugs? I mean, I don't get that. I mean, you couldn't identify anything. You mean you couldn't tell anything? Yeah, obviously, if it was an alcohol, you had to have been able to smell it on her breath. If it was alcohol, you apparently didn't smell alcohol because you didn't say it was alcohol. If it was weed, you definitely could have smelled weed. No one said anything about marijuana or weed or anything like that. And the tests that y'all gave, there apparently are some tests that you think are accurate, couldn't identify anything. So if there was not that you couldn't identify what it was, why not take her to an actual doctor where they could run more accurate tests that would give a broader range, to identify the substance that you think she was on, if, indeed she was. This is such a sad, situation and a sad state of affairs. There are kids who do drugs at school. Yeah, there are kids, but all kids are not doing drugs. All kids of color are not doing drugs or doing illegal activities, and that should seem, it's pretty despicable how that school district treated that young lady and her mother. And, I would think they owe her an apology, especially if this happens again and it comes out that a doctor actually diagnosed exactly why she did pass out, and especially, I don't hope she has any serious illness, but if they find out exactly what it was, they owe her more than to expunge her record of that suspension. People say, oh, it's just a 3-day suspension. It goes on your permanent record and it matters. So they need to do us right. I mean, I don't see what this served this student for missing 3 days of her education because you just assumed something. You didn't even know what it was, and you just assumed something. Really? That was worth taking 3 days of her education away? When there are kids that won't even go to school, when there are kids that drop out of school, and this child is in school, you know what? More than kids and more than a lot of people need to get their priorities straight. You know, and we wonder why our school systems are going south. We wonder why kids have no respect. Look what we're teaching them. Look at this situation. It's despicable. You know, God help America today. You know, I hope this girl and her family gets the proper remedies for this situation. Because in my eyes right now, it's not fair. So tell me what you think about it. You know, am I wrong? Is this something that just should have happened? Am I overreacting about this? You know, tell me what's up. What you think? All right. And don't forget, once again, like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you. And peace out.